Welcome to Paws Up Podcast, episode 12. For the ones who are viewing us on Twitter, we're back. We're back on Twitter. After I think it was like a 1 week loss of our Twitter account, we're back, good to go. Episode 12, just Jake and I, the dynamic duo. We're
Of
here to
course.
talk all FIU athletics today. There's so much to unpack. We got a lot of baseball, basketball, and even some football to sprinkle in there. Jake, how we doing? And
We are doing great. Happy to have our awesome podcast back on Twitter, and it's gonna be like we never left. And I gotta say we came back at just the right time, Kevin. We took our week hiatus, went on vacation, went all over the world, but we're back. It's all in good spirits. As boy, this is like the busiest time for FIU athletics. You got baseball, you got basketball, you got spring football, and also a bunch of other stuff in between.
There's a lot to talk about today, and as always, like, subscribe, share, retweet, quote tweet, whatever it is. Just share the podcast. We're trying to grow this thing as much as possible. There's no other podcast that does what we do, which is cover all FIU athletics, and I mean all of it. And we're going to try to expand even more if we can. So I think we should start off kind of recapping what we've been seeing these last couple of weeks. I mean, we were off for a week. You and I went over to opening day. We covered that. I covered game 2. You went over and covered probably one of the weirdest FIU basketball games of the year. And we'll get more into why you were there calling the game with Johnny. Highly encourage you all to. I don't know if you could rewatch, if you re-listen to that, but if you want to, go ahead. I believe it's on Mixer. So
Mixler, yeah.
Mixler. So let's get it going. Baseball opening day until now. We won't recap too much because we're going to get into it a lot more. But just very quickly, FIU currently stands at 3-5. They beat George Mason twice, so they won that series. They beat Bethune-Cookman, and they also beat Missouri, I believe.
Yeah, they only got one.
No, they beat one against George Mason. Yeah, you're right. So one against George Mason, one against Bethune-Cookman, and a very good win against Missouri. So that puts them at 3-5, and they're currently playing Florida Gulf Coast University. As we speak, Kabarkas is on the mound tonight. Their ace, who has just been killing it. Jake, very quick thoughts on FIU baseball before we get into more specifics.
So far, FIU baseball has looked solid. About as solid as a team with a brand new coaching staff and a ton of new players can look. They have a lot of spots that I like. Their offense has been pretty good so far. There hasn't been a game where they've scored less than 2 runs, and usually, in college baseball and in the pros, 2 runs can usually net you out some tough games of baseball, right? So offensively, they're doing good, I think, and their highest run game was against Missouri, the final game of the Missouri game, where they put up 5 runs, but they did not win because of what I think is the biggest weakness so far for FIU, and it's their defense. I think their pitching has been fine, but there have been a lot of moments that we've seen that it just feels like their fielding has sort of let them down a little bit. And of course, that can all be fixed with experience, right? And with time for this team to grow. It can only get better for here. But I'm liking what I'm seeing on offense, and I think the defense could use a little bit of work.
Okay, so just a quick update. FIU is currently losing to FGSU. Yes, 8-4. Today's the real first start where Kabarkas has really struggled. Gave up 2 homers, 5 hits, 3 runs, all earned, 2 strikeouts. Only faced 15 batters, went 3 innings. And then you have Chenier, who I do not know his first name. No offense to him, but has given up 5 earned runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, and has only pitched an inning and a half. So not a good look for FIU today. Only homer came from Wallen, and RBIs came from Wallen. I believe it was a grand slam just from the looks of it. Ryan Guida, Agent Figueroa, and Wallen all have hits, and also Mikey Rosario, who's been one of the better transfers so far. So not good for FIU looks right now, but I mean, all right, I think we could kind of get more into specifics of the team. I mean, we just mentioned him just now. Ryan Kabarkas has just been phenomenal for FIU so far in his first 2 starts. Let's just forget right now the start he's having. He has a 1.13 ERA, 11 strikeouts, 1 walk, 0.625 WHIP. Christian Santana looked pretty good in that first start I watched, which was the win. Then he kind of had a blow-up start, so now he's around like an 8 ERA, which is not good. But just looking at the offense, which is something else that was an issue that first game we went to, the offense really just seemed like an issue, Jake, those first 2 games I was out there. Now, second game looked a lot better. They got more runs in there. They got the win. They scored 12 against Bethune-Cookman. They beat Missouri with offense. So just keep looking at that. Ryan Guida, the transfer, 414, 485, 621, 1.106 slash line with 1 homer, 11 RBIs. He was one of the transfers that Johnny was mentioning to us. He's been a stud so far, keeping on the transfer portals. Mikey Rosario, the UM transfer, 310, 355, 552, 907 with 2 homers and 4 RBIs. And then we have to look at the homegrown guys. Alex Sanchez, who, although has been struggled a little bit, he's still hitting phenomenally well. I mean, 323, 484, 807 with 1 homer and 1 RBI. That 1 homer was the opening night game when we were there, opening day. And really just, it's been a solid team so far. They obviously have their issues right now, which is production on the offensive end. And just some bad pitching overall at some moments, but it doesn't really look that bad. And this is kind of where I want to get to. What happened? You watched a lot of FIU baseball throughout your time. What are the biggest differences from 2022 to 2023? So far, obviously.
I felt like last year we had very inconsistent pitching. And so far, I want to say it looks like an exact copy, but I feel like the pitching has gone a little bit better. Overall, I really don't want to dissect what is going on right now in the Florida Gulf Coast game, but let's look back to their win against the Missouri Tigers back in last week. The pitching rotation was absolutely on fire that game. They struck out 11 batters and walked only a single batter as well. Ryan Cabarcas, like you said, he struck out 4, only allowed 1 run. CJ McKinnick got the win. He got 2 scoreless innings late and collected 4 strikeouts of his own. The pitching has had moments where they have looked phenomenal. And as good as FIU's offense has been in a few games, their pitching is what let them down along with their defense, like I was saying earlier. But just when you give up 8 runs in a game like George Mason, like when you give up 4 to 5 to 6 runs in a game, that's when these games can usually get out of hand for you, regardless of if it's collegiate or professional. Giving up that many runs can just make a game get out of hand, no matter how good your offense is. And we've seen that happen quite a bit. And right after that first game against Missouri, they gave up 5 runs, they gave up 10 runs, and then they gave up 9 runs. Right, that's an insane amount. But again, granted, Coach Rich knows this, and he's going to make adjustments. And there already have been signs of success. I mean, FIU, that win against Missouri, it was FIU's first win against an SEC school in, I believe, 4 years. Since 2018, 5 years. Yeah. That's insane. And there are a lot of matchups down the road. I'm interested to see how the pitching turns out for this Harvard series. Again, we can only see how Harvard did last year and the years before, because again, that's the school we don't often play. And I'm just interested to see how they can take their experience of playing the big bad SEC and taking that to the Ivy League, which is like on the absolute far end of the collegiate spectrum as far as athletics go. So there's still a lot of time for this team to grow before things really get crazy when they take on the University of Miami on March 15th.
We'll be there.
And yeah, we'll be there. And when they start to take on conference teams such as the brand new addition to Conference USA in baseball, Dallas Baptist University.
Yeah, I mean, just gonna pull up the schedule now just to see what we're kind of looking at ahead, because kind of that's what I wanted to get into next. And I mean, I think I agree with everything you said. I mean, we have to give props. The pitching has looked really good at moments. I mean, and I will encourage that, because Johnny was on here last time and we were talking about the pitching, and he said that was one of the biggest issues FIU had last season. And just looking at this year, it looks completely different. Cabarcas is shoving. Santiago is shoving. Santana, I'm sorry. This team is looking good. And now I think, Jake, it's time to look kind of ahead. We're going to look past Gulf Coast until that game is over. FIU will play 4-game set against Harvard University. The last time these two teams played, God, who knows how long it's been. The last time they played was March 28th, 2007. So
those are the golden years for FIU, by the way. The early to mid 2000s was when FIU was like a baseball powerhouse.
Well, they won 13-6 against Harvard.
I will say I'm not afraid of the Harvard matchup, by the way.
No, you shouldn't be. I mean, this is a team that is very well known for, their smartness and being very, very good. Now, how much will analytics play into this? Who knows? Maybe that team knows what they're doing, but I mean,
still 1-3. They're only 1-3 this season. The Ivy League schedule is a bit weird. They actually have like in-season tournaments, and their schedule is a lot shorter. But still, they won a game against the University of Pitt, but then lost 3 games as well. So they're 1-3 this year. Going back last year, 19-22. Nothing too crazy, though. They did
better than FIU.
beat. No, 19-22. This is Harvard.
Yeah, I'm saying better than FIU.
Yeah, better than FIU. And you know what? They beat Miami. Harvard's first game of the season last year was an 11-6 win over the University of Miami. That was part of a 3-game series, right?
I remember that.
So, the Harvard record-wise, the Crimson, kind of a lot like FIU. Couple of losing seasons, but still some really great wins here and there. I do think that FIU can take them. I feel confident they can. Again, if their pitching just calms down and produces solid results that their offense can capitalize on, because again, you have the big bats like Alex Sanchez, who we've already seen. He's made some big hits this year, including that first game against, or not first, the home opener
First
against
game,
George Mason. Yeah. So after Harvard, you play Stetson, and Stetson is a team that is usually given FIU some hell. But again, the teams are different. We would have to do like an absolutely insane analysis to see.
I think since we won't be back until next week, let's kind of predict this Harvard series.
Okay.
We have a 4-game set with a doubleheader on Saturday. What do
I
think?
say that I want to be optimistic and say they're going to take 3. But there is a part of me that feels like, again, these teams are kind of even. So I'm going to say they split.
I agree.
Because it is a 4-game series, and they're doing a doubleheader on Saturday, which is cool.
I would say this. I think they'll take the first 2. Mm-hmm. They'll lose the doubleheader on Saturday, the second one, and then they'll lose on Sunday.
All right. Well, I think that's fair.
They'll come in flaming hot, win those first 2 games, and then kind of just lose their firepower against Harvard, that second doubleheader and the final one. Obviously, we don't know what the pitcher is going to look like. We would assume Kabarkas pitches a game, Santana pitches a game. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how the relievers look. So
FIU has notoriously the Panthers have notoriously been very scarce with how often they give their report on who's pitching for a series. It's usually only a couple of days in advance. And usually
the day of sometimes.
Yeah, and usually they don't even say who's the Sunday pitcher. They'll just put it on the post. Oh, it's Rory for Sunday. Just kidding. We don't know.
No idea.
But I think I think they'll do all right against Harvard. And then they play Stetson. I mean, that's basically a coin flip at this point. And then they play Marist.
They beat FIU. FIU beat Stetson 7-6. So
yeah,
but FIU kind of sucks against them. 5 wins, 10 losses. Kind of.
But so far, they're doing okay against Harvard. So they play Stetson. Maybe they win, maybe they lose. Then they host Marist. Now Marist is 0-6 so far this season.
This should be a sweep.
They got swept by USC. They got swept by William and Mary. I think that FIU at the very least will win the series. I can see them sweeping. And then this is when things get interesting.
This is the good game. This is going to be a fun game.
This will be an immediate test for this FIU team. They're going to be put on the spot. They're going to be taking on a team
it's a test. I'm going to stop you there. It was a test, but it's going to be a test. But the Missouri games those were a test too. I mean,
They
they're
were
playing
a
an
test,
FIU
but they
team.
were an early test, and an early test is not a fair test.
It's not a fair
regardless
test.
of if it's sports or if it's like a class. An early test before you know all the information, that sucks.
That's fair.
By the time they play Miami, they'll have finished 1, 2, 3, 4 different series against other schools with a couple of other opponents mixed in there as well. I think that's a better test for this FIU team when they take on a team that we know is great because they spent most of last year being, nationally ranked in the University of Miami. So, and again, history does not look towards FIU in this matchup.
At all.
Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you the last time FIU beat Miami. I'll need to go and check.
Were you even a student?
Probably not.
Probably not, right?
But I mean,
I think if FIU has a chance to do it, I think it's this year. They have enough offensive firepower. The pitching has looked pretty good. They lost to Harvard last season. So what if they lose to FIU this year? So, and FIU has 4 chances to do it. I just want to be very clear.
Yeah.
They'll have
so FIU's last win against Miami, by the way, was on April 25th of 2018. So that was a few months before I was a student at FIU. They won 14-6. Not bad.
Not bad.
Then they played them twice in 2019. Both times were an L. They gave up 18 runs in one game, April 2019.
Were you there?
Yes, I actually do remember being there. I remember calling my parents saying, "Hey, I'm here." Ha ha ha. And then as soon as I was about to end the call, a Canes player cracks a homer to center field. And that just added some insult to injury. And I was like, why am I here? Obviously, nothing happened in 2020. 2021, they get blown out 21-1. The first game in 2021. 21 runs to 1 run. Just want to reiterate that. And then April 7th, of 2021, they lose 8-3. A bit more modest, but I mean, still.
20 what? 28-3, you said 28-3?
No, in March 31st of 2021, the Canes beat the Panthers by a score of 21-1. Yeah.
What was the one after?
8-3. It was also a
that's
UM
not
win.
bad. Yeah.
And then last year, their first game they lost 12-5, and the second one they lost 17-1. And yes, that is 29. FIU did in fact give up 29 runs to the same team twice in a season. Nice. That's more than like 6 straight games.
Kind of just to preview what FIU is looking like. They're looking pretty good this year. I mean, FIU, they're looking.
Of course.
And obviously they're a powerhouse, but the one player we got to focus on is probably the guy who will mash and mash. And that's third baseman Yandy Morales, who will probably be a first rounder in the MLB draft. And I would bet myself he would be a top 10, top 15 pick. So that's the name we will definitely be looking out for. And hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to him. At least I would love to talk to him. Cuban guy, Miami boy. Hopefully the Marlins pick him up.
And the one thing I will say about that Miami matchup on the 15th, because it is at FIU's campus, it's at the baseball stadium. The FIU fan base needs to show up to that, because obviously when Miami rolls into town, regardless of the sport, they bring their fans, right? And they get loud. FIU
cheap tickets. They're very cheap. So
because they don't, it's hard enough. You have to play Miami and try to win, but when it feels like you're at the second coming of Mark Light Field, when it gets crazy in the 7th inning because you're already losing 10-1 or something, then it gets rough. So the FIU fans need to show up in droves to that game. Of course, as you said earlier, we'll be there. If you want to say hey, we'll be there.
Third baseline, first baseline. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a good time. I mean, just
it's gonna be fun. Yeah,
and watching UM. Just that, it's pretty cool. We'll be able to hopefully watch the workouts and all that.
And that is a cool thing too. And we talked about this with Johnny, and when we saw the season, we're playing him 4 times this year. So
you feel good.
I don't want to say it's a rivalry, because rivalries have to be, competitive.
Yeah,
but
I think it'll be.
I have seen tensions flare between these two schools, regardless. And the fact that they have to play each other 4 times, they have to see each other 4 times in a season,
Will we get a
I feel
benches clearing?
like it's going to make for some very interesting moments.
Will we get a benches clearing in any of these 4 games? All right, let's do this. Quick prediction. Over or under 2 benches clearings?
I'm going to hit you with an under because
You don't think it'll be too competitive?
It's going to be lucky if there's 1 bench clear.
You don't think
and
there'll be one?
because both teams are well behaved, okay? Let's just say that. This isn't exactly early 2000s Miami football where they didn't care about being the bullies. They were the bullies and they were proud of it.
I'll go the under. I don't
Yeah.
think
they almost cleared the benches last year in Coral Gables after an FIU pitcher hit a Miami player or a Miami batter. To this day, I don't think it was intentional or anything. I think the Canes were just kind of pissed because obviously they were clearly going to Omaha. They were clearly going to a tournament. They want all their players healthy, right? So they were yelling at the FIU pitcher because of that. But the FIU pitcher was like, hey, relax. And then the benches, like they almost cleared. They were like 1 insult away from clearing, but they didn't. So
look if they didn't. And just to preview that, it'll be March 15th, Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. at FIU Baseball Stadium. Jake and Johnny most likely on the call. Jake, you'll probably be on the call, I assume.
Yes, sir.
And if not, we'll be there. I'll be there covering. So stay tuned. We have a lot of content coming up in terms of baseball. So it is time for your moment, Jake. We're 21 minutes in. We have a very spicy basketball talk coming up. We have a lot to talk about basketball. So let's do it. It is time for
It's time for News Break. Your official look at all things, the latest and greatest news from the world of FIU Athletics and just FIU in general. It's a big school. Come on. What about it? So, first thing, we'll talk about this later. FIU football has announced their 2023 spring schedule with practices beginning on March 21st and continuing every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday leading up to the official spring game on April 22nd. Something to note is that their practice on April 9th will be located off campus at Charles Hadley Park at Uncle Luke Field. Some really big Miami history there. And for the second straight year, all practices will be open to the public, so anyone can come and attend and watch the Panthers from the crack of dawn to whenever they finish their practices. Sticking with football.
Fans cannot take pictures.
Fans can't take pictures, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All
right. Well, don't get any funny ideas, whoever's watching this. Sticking with football, former defensive back and FIU alumni Keon Brumfield has joined BYU, that's Brigham Young University, as an assistant corners coach. He is now the second former FIU player to begin a graduate assistant position from last year's squad, the other being defensive back Pierce Withers, who is now a defensive assistant for FAU. On to baseball. FIU alumnus and 2-time World Series champion Mike Lowell has been named as the next legend to join MLB The Show 2023. Lowell, of course, had a great career with the FIU Panthers before going on to win 2 titles with both the then called Florida Marlins and Boston Red Sox, and has since done analyst work for the MLB Network. Of course, MLB The Show is an annual video game series that adds a few new legends to the roster every year. In the game, these legends are sought-after players from every team that can be used for custom teams and other game modes. This news comes not that long after Miami's own Jazz Chisholm Jr. was announced as the cover athlete for this year's game. So, really cool that the Marlins get a lot of representation nationally in a big time media platform.
Just as Avi Garcia hits a homer, Oppo Taco, baby. Marlins get a run. They're currently playing.
There you go. What? It's like 24-2 now. Is that it?
God knows. I have no idea. I know.
There's always a big debate on who is the greatest FIU athlete of all time, and most people say T.Y. Hilton, but I still think it's Mike Lowell.
Mike Lowell is a stud, man.
You can make the case that T.Y. Hilton is the best athlete, like athletic person to come out of FIU, and I probably wouldn't disagree with that. But as far as success, I mean, come on, 2 World Series rings. Come on, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Especially because he played for the Marlins, too. That's awesome.
All right. So I think it's time we continue and we move on to basketball.
Uh-oh.
Not good looks right now for basketball, Jake.
Oh, dude. So their most recent game.
Before we even start talking about it,
okay,
let's just count the losses. 4-game losing streak.
Mm-hmm.
2 of those games were losses against the worst teams in Conference USA.
Yeah.
University of El Paso, whatever. University of Texas El Paso, UTEP, and then UTSA, which is the worst team in Conference USA. Jake, you were there, and if you follow the FIU Athletics channel, you will notice there's not a press conference because Coach Ballard did not have a press conference. No player, no coach. Right. First, recap the UTSA game, and then second of all, talk to us about what happened after the game.
That might have been one of the most sus college basketball games I've ever seen. So I'll say the great things about what I saw from FIU first, because there were some FIU genuinely looked like a great team in the first half. John Williams Jr., who they honored it was senior night. They honored him, of course. He had 18 points in the first half. So the FIU in general was just killing it from the 3-point line. Whether it was Petar Kovacevic or Javante Hawkins or even a bit of Dean and Brewer thrown in there, they were killing it offensively in the first half. And you would have thought, all right, they're going to make some adjustments at halftime. They're going to fix some of the few issues they had in the first half, which were mainly just secondhand opportunities for the Roadrunners. They got most of their points off of secondhand, like off of offensive rebounds and whatnot. All right, fix that up. Keep the offense hot. They're going to smoke the Roadrunners in the second half. And then, as we find out, they did not. It looked like they made negative adjustments. That's how bad they looked. They were ice cold shooting. They could not rebound the ball to save their lives. And again, Williams did not score at all in the second half.
Did he even play?
We thought, he's going to have a career game. 18 points in the first half, maybe 10 more in the second. It's going to be awesome. He didn't score at all in the second half. And UTSA, they didn't miss, right? FIU turned the ball over 20 times, and UTSA converted those turnovers into 25 points, mainly in the second half. So there was a point in the game right after the second half began where FIU led by 16. And I still can't believe how horrifically, or I should say horrific, I guess that's the correct way to say it, how horrific they looked in the second half. It still blows my mind. And like you said, they're the worst. They're statistically the worst team in Conference USA basketball.
They looked like
a great team. I have to say is that if you lose to the worst team, you yourself are now the worst team, right? Maybe not record-wise, maybe not statistic-wise, but just generally, I mean, come on. That was a game that FIU had to win.
They had it. That's the thing, Jake. They literally had it. They were up by, I think, 10 at the half. No, they weren't. They were up 56-42 at the half, and they got dropped 53 points in the second half of the game. They lost that second half score. It was 53-35 that they lost.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I'm going to give UTSA
and it showed, and it really showed. Because let's look. Yeah. Arturo Dean, 11 points. Denver Jones, 12 points. Those guys usually score more.
Yeah.
You have Deshaun Giddens, freshman, absolute stud. He only dropped 4 points. Mohamed Sonogo, who's a huge part of this team, dropped 2 points. And then, I mean, it's just horrible. There's no other way to say it. This team really did not play well. And I think there's only one man to blame for the loss, because you have such a talented team, and you know where I'm going with this. You have such a talented team led by Arturo Dean. You have Denver Jones, who I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to the transfer portal, to be honest with you. A lot of these guys, I wouldn't be surprised. You have Mohamed Sonogo. You have such a good, talented, young team. And he's a great guy. He really is. He's one of the greatest coaches I've met. Jeremy Ballard, I think it's time for him to go.
Coach Ballard, if you're somehow watching this, we love you, dude. You're a super cool guy. When you do host your press conferences, you answer your questions greatly.
Phenomenal coach.
And we've seen how you've bonded with your players too at these press conferences. That's super cool. But that was unacceptable. Losing to UTSA in a game that, by all means, if FIU even wanted a prayer when it comes to getting a first round bye or just getting home field advantage, having some sort of positive for the upcoming Conference USA tournament. If they wanted any of that, they had to win out, right? By the way, if FIU did win out, meaning that if they beat UTSA and if they had won their next two games against Louisiana Tech and Rice, they're both on the road, then they would have finished the regular season with a winning record, which would have been the first time that's happened for FIU, I believe, in 4 years. So it's I can't stress how disappointed I was leaving that arena, knowing that FIU, unfortunately, is what a lot of people thought they would be.
They choked. There's no other way to say it. They
literally blew it.
And I've never ranted on this podcast, and the fact that I'm doing that shows how much I care about this team and how much.
Because as you said, they have so many great players, and just to see them all ice cold in the second half, like, I know a lot of that has to go on the players themselves. Like, come on,
and I want to ask you
but the coaching, there's a lot to go on with the coaching for that game, just to not rally the troops when they were starting to blow it, and then ultimately when they did blow it. It's just an unacceptable loss. There's nothing to say. It's the worst team in basketball. It's senior night. It's your last game at home in the regular season, and obviously your last game just period at home this season, because you're not going to get a home game in the Conference USA tournament. And they blew it.
Yep. And I want to ask you, Jake, how did you find out there's no press conference? Because people care about this stuff. They care about this because obviously when there's not a press conference, something really bad happened. In this case, you lost to the worst team in Conference USA. You're on a 4-game losing streak, and you're basically not going to have any success in the tournament if you go.
Mm-hmm. So Coach Ballard and I don't want to throw him under the bus here. Pretty much almost every coach that I've seen for FIU does this same thing, where after a brutal loss, a tough loss, they just don't want to speak to the press. And again, I saw it an unbelievable amount of times with Butch Davis, and I saw it an unbelievable amount of times with Coach Merville Melendez.
With Merville is like every day.
Yeah, Johnny walked up as usually we all do. We go up to where the press conference, where the table is. I believe it was set up. At least that's what I heard.
Oh wait, did you even end up going up there? Or
I did not. No. Okay. I was told by Johnny I had to leave early, and I told Johnny, "Hey, send me the recording, please, of the press conference." And guess what? I never got a recording.
It would have been like completely silent.
Yeah, and I don't blame him, by the way, because I'll just get there at that. If I was in his shoes and I just blew a game to UTSA, I don't know how jolly I would be after a press conference to answer some questions. But at the same time, that's his job, and I get it. But it's just we usually try to keep this show positive, right? But it is hard to find some positivity from FIU men's basketball. We were so stoked around the beginning of the season and when they entered conference play. All right, they were winning a lot of games. They were being competitive. They were, they could push for a nice spot.
We were feeling really good. That's
Conference USA tournament.
Yeah.
And when they lost to Rice in Middle Tennessee, it was like, all right, that's a bad stretch, but okay, you have 2 home games against the 2 Texas teams. You got to win them, right? They didn't. And
Worst teams. The worst teams in Conference USA.
Now I don't feel confident for their last two regular season games.
And yeah, win or lose. Do they make the tournament?
Yes. I
lose?
think
if they lose both, they still make the tournament?
I'm not 100% how the Conference USA
tournament.
I feel like most teams, because again, Conference USA is it's weird. They're losing members. Everything's like it's a bit wacko. But I still think that they have done enough to get
I know
into
this, and
the tournament.
AJ explained it to us. The first 5 teams in the seeding get a bye.
Yeah.
So FIU was playing for the 5th seed. They've obviously lost that after this horrible streak of just lost.
Everybody gets in. So all 11 teams. That's just a weird number for a team as a conference. All 11 teams get into the tournament. And as you said, the first few teams, they get a bye. They get home court advantage. And FIU has absolutely secured themselves the 10th spot. Just behind UTSA, because FIU does have an overall better record than UTSA. But I just can't see them beating Florida Atlantic. I can't see them beating North Texas, Middle Tennessee, UAB, some of the top dogs in Conference USA. They don't have a prayer, especially right now. If you told me in the middle of the season, oh yeah, I'd say yeah, there's a chance. But after what I saw against UTSA, they don't stand a prayer. And again, if they prove me wrong, by all means.
We got to go apologize to Jeremy Ballard ourselves.
Yeah, I will send him a bouquet of roses and a 12-pack of FIU Sunblazer Ale as an apology.
He probably gets it for free, but
yeah. I don't like what I don't like the direction the men's basketball team is going. To have this much star power and to still find creative and interesting ways to lose, I don't like it.
It's wild,
and
man.
Look, I love Coach Ballard. He's a really cool dude. I've met him a bunch of times. Whenever there's a big event on campus, he's usually there. He was there when Scott Carr was announced. He was there when Mike McIntyre was announced. He's a really cool dude, but it's just been a few years now. I want to get this right. So his last winning season was, I believe, in 2018 to 2019. That is 4 years. If my math is correct. But it's been that long since we've had a winning record. And I think it's time for him to go. If they can't get everything correctly. Again, if they win out, do great in the tournament, then by all means, go for it. Extend Ballard if he can somehow make this happen. But I just can't see the men's basketball team improving with Ballard as the head coach. I thought Ballard's seat was hot last year, and then FIU men's basketball extended his contract. So I was already on the fence. I was kind of happy in the beginning of their season and in the middle of the season. And now after that UTSA game, all I can really think about is, man, he's not going to be here next year.
And I want to point out something, Jake. I'm sorry, technical difficulties. I opened Twitter, and all of a sudden everything blew up. But anyways, all right. They extended Kyle Russell. They've extended Coach Mack. They've extended the diving coach, the swimming coach.
Mm-hmm.
The only one they haven't extended is Coach Ballard. Just want to make that very clear.
Yeah.
And if you may, or if you know, until what year does his contract run? Obviously, they could fire him before that, but until what year does his contract run? There could be a case where he's on the final year of his deal, and they're just going to let it run out, and they won't renegotiate.
I actually have no clue how long.
Well, he got here what year? Maybe he's still I think he's on the final year of his deal, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I think so. Let me just double check real quick.
So yeah, before we continue, we have some more stuff to cover on here. FIU football getting into action very soon. Just some quick players that stand out and what's coming up for FIU. So unfortunately, no predictions from us, and I will actually look up the FIU baseball game to see where that is at right now, and hopefully not many more runs have been scored because
So his first season was 2018 when he had the winning record. So his first year he got a winning record, and then after that, not great. So
his contract expires this year. 2018, 2019, 2020, 21, 20. Yeah, 5 years. 23. Yeah. It would be
I mean, look, let's just clear this up, Kevin. If you were Scott Carr and you had to make a decision on Coach Ballard, what would you do?
Oh, whoa, wait! Before we continue, FIU baseball is making a comeback.
Wait a second.
It is 9-7, top of the 7th inning, 0 outs. Dante Girardi is up at the plate. Shall we stay on here? Oh man, there has to be a way to watch this game. There actually is a way. Oh, there is a way to watch the game. I'm watching it right now.
So Edwin, hey Edwin, how's it going? The NFL Stradamus. He says to keep Ballard.
I would fire him. If I'm Scott Carr, I'm like,
best hair in the game. Now that I can get behind that, I can concur. He has that Miami swagger. I do like that about Ballard, and he's a nice dude, but he's just not delivering. Okay. He's not doing what we feel like a good coach at FIU could do, because again, you have the recruiting is there. The talent is there. They have talent now, right? But when you lose to the worst team in Conference USA in the most pathetic way you probably could, I think that's all the evidence you need.
It's a really bad look.
So anyway, just to sum up, so FIU is 13-16. They're 7-11 in the conference. They're on a 4-game losing streak. Their most recent game was a 95-91 loss against the University of Texas San Antonio Roadrunners on senior night.
Dante Girardi has struck out. 1 out, top of the 7th.
Okay. Their last 2 games are both on the road. The first is on Thursday, March the 2nd at 7 o'clock against the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs. And then their final game of the regular season is on Saturday, March the 4th at 3 o'clock against the Rice Owls. And then the Conference USA tournament begins on Wednesday, March the 8th. It's a 3-day event. It's likely FIU would be the 11th seed, which means they would likely play against either Middle Tennessee or UAB in the first round. They wouldn't, because they would get their buys. Actually, I don't know who they would play in the first round.
It would probably be like some type of wild card where you play the bottom seed, and if you win, you play the top dog.
Maybe.
All right. Well, FIU football time.
Ooh, okay. So as I mentioned in the news break, spring drills
schedule.
The spring drills begin on March the 21st. And again, it's just a great way for fans to see, what Mike McIntyre is cooking for the football team. And again, I love the fact that they're letting these practices be open to the public. It's cool. It lets high school people come out and see what it would be like to play for FIU, and it just draws hype to the fan base. Some things to note is that so each practice begins at 9 a.m., but dates and times are subject to change.
Jake and I will be there at the first one for now.
Oh yeah, for now. I something I will immediately say about FIU football is that what everyone is going to watch immediately is the quarterback room. Okay, yeah, there it is. Everyone's going to see what the quarterback, they're going to watch those quarterbacks, right? They're going to study them. like it's a class, like it's a.
And we'll have an article dropping, kind of going into depth on this quarterback room very soon. But I'm sorry to cut you off, Jake. Kewan Jenkins, the main guy, that's the guy everyone will be watching. I will tell you that right now. It'll be Kewan Jenkins, Grayson James, and Hayden Carlson. Those are the guys that they will be watching. And there's one more quarterback, which I'm forgetting. You may know who it is. He did not play last year. He was a red shirt. Brooks. I believe his last name is Brooks. Is it Armani Brooks? No.
Dang it. Now I got to check.
Yeah, I feel really bad for him because I think he followed me on Twitter. Well, it's gonna be very interesting. We'll have articles dropping on FIU football, just going kind of into position by position, the battles that we'll get. As you can see, Jake mentioned it. Spring will be starting at 9 Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays. I will be there on the 21st. I believe Jake will be there on the 28th or the 21st, one of the two. And after that, it'll basically be me just covering every Saturday until the day of the game. You'll be getting pictures, highlights, reports, pressers, all that good stuff. FIU football is back, which means Paws Up Podcast season 2 is coming soon. So we're 21.
Once that fall semester rolls out, man, we're the show's gonna be bigger and better than ever. We already got plans, all right? They're in the works.
There's a big boy in the work.
And then the spring game. People sleep on the spring game, but it's just such a fun time. You just get to hang out with the players and the coaches and just watch them battle against each other. It's and the way it was set up last year, obviously it was free for students. I think it was like very cheap, or maybe even also free for alumni as well. They really catered toward bringing alumni back for that event.
Yeah, you're an alumni. You'll be there.
Oh yeah, of course. It was just so much fun, and there's a lot to look forward to for the. Again, we're not going to stay here and be like, "Oh my god, this is going to be so awesome." It's going to be like the beginning of the regular season because that's still 150 something days away.
There's a lot of storylines to look into.
Yeah, and by the way, every position is going to be getting equal coverage and equal opportunities at these practices. So the quarterback room is going to be busy. But, you have the tight ends, you have the receivers, you have the running backs, you have all the players on defense, even special teams is going to be getting their fair share.
And that's one room we should maybe that's the next one I'll write up on is the tight end room. That is a very interesting room. Some very good players. Rocky Beers is in there. Christian Pedersen is in there. I mean, it is going to be very interesting with the departure of Rivaldo Fairweather, who went to Auburn. So it's going to be a very interesting room. The running back room, we know who's going to be their guy. It's going to be Flex Joseph. Wide receiver room, we kind of have to look at who the starters will be. They added some studs over there. And then finally, obviously, defense. Defense was some part of the team that was very lacking last year, very not good, as we could say. I mean, it was the strength of this team when the offense was just horrid. The offense looks a lot better. We're going to analyze these offensive linemen, but the defense got a lot better. They brought in some really good players. They brought in a commit from Colorado, which uncommitted after, was removed from the commit after Deion Sanders made his way over there. So FIU has some studs. That's what I'll say. I was very happy with the recruiting. We're going to be able to meet all these guys throughout these next 2 months and a half. So it's going to be a good time.
Mm-hmm. And the final thing I'll say about the spring games is that, again, something that Mike McIntyre, he talked about when we had him on the show. He's been talking about ever since his time here. He wants the fans to be there. He wants, regardless if you're a student, if you're an alumni, if you're just a casual fan of football, he wants you there at these games. Once the season begins, he wants to see a packed house. And how is he going to do that? He's going to get people interested immediately. And that starts with the spring games. And again, I love the fact that he's doing this. It's just such a lights out decision.
Lights out! Lights out!
That was a good transition.
Yeah, that was, everyone's on transitions lately. Transitions are trending. I did try one myself.
That was good. That was amazing. So whenever we do get the link, we'll be posting that, for tickets and stuff. We'll obviously be putting that out on Twitter because we want to see you guys out there. We want to meet you guys, not only because we'll be there covering the event. So just, and then the big rule, no pictures, guys.
No pictures.
Unless you don't have the credential, you can't take a picture. And don't do no sneaky stuff because we know
unless you're cool guys like us who have those credentials, then just put the phones away.
Put the
Right?
phone away.
It's football. Pretend like it's the early 2000s. And you're at a game. No phones inside, just everyone just enjoying their time.
You're in school. You're back in school. No phones out. You're in class. So, Jake, I think this is where we can kind of end it. I mean, I did not expect to go almost an hour, but there was a lot to cover. I mean, at the end of the day, just kind of to recap, we went through FIU baseball, looking pretty all right. Right now, man on first and second, top of the seventh, 2 outs, 9-7. FIU's down to Florida Gulf Coast University. Went through FIU basketball, kind of both agreed that it's time for Jeremy Ballard to go, except Edwin, who thinks he should stay because of his hair. And FIU football is coming back sooner than just 3 weeks. 3 weeks, Jake. 3-4 weeks, FIU football, they're back in action. Going to meet the new guys and let the competition battles begin. But, I will let you sign us off.
Yeah. All I'll say is that this is such a great time for athletics because before you know it, in a few months, it'll be the summer semester, and just events on campus are going to crawl athletic-wise. So enjoy all this commotion with FIU while you can, because obviously when the summer semester rolls around, we'll be on hiatus for a little bit, and then we're going to come back strong for season two of the Paws Up Podcast. It's going to be awesome. So have a great night, everybody. Again, if you've been watching us on our Twitter account, on the Lemon City Live Facebook or YouTube, can't thank you guys enough. We'll try to get episode 13 rolling with a guest that we have not yet to be determined, but we have a bunch of ideas and people who do want to be on the show, so that's awesome. So we'll make some stuff happen. But yeah, I'll speak for myself, Jake Gibson, and the man, Kevin Barral, when I say so long, have a great night, and paws up.